Have you ever wondered why some people effortlessly win the lottery while others struggle for years and never succeed? Is it mere luck, or is there a hidden power at play? I recall a time when a man came to me, desperate and disillusioned. He had played the lottery for years, convinced that luck was his only hope. Each week he would purchase his ticket, filled with fleeting excitement, only to face disappointment time and time again. One evening he asked me, "What am I doing wrong? I visualize, I hope, yet I never win." I smiled, for I knew the answer well. You are placing your faith in luck, not in the law. You believe the numbers hold power, but it is you who holds the power. You cannot desire a thing and simultaneously doubt its arrival. That which you expect, you receive. I told him, tonight before you sleep, do not wish, assume. See yourself holding the winning ticket. Feel the weight of it in your hands. Let the thrill of victory consume you. Sleep in that state and do not waver. Weeks passed, and one day he returned, his face radiant. "I have won," he exclaimed. But what astonished him was not the win itself. It was the ease with which it came. He had not struggled, he had not begged, he simply knew. And so I tell you now, faith is the only power. You do not win by chance, you win by law. The moment you accept your victory as already done, the world has no choice but to reflect it back to you. Let go of luck, embrace faith, and watch as the world bends to your assumption. The world has conditioned man to believe that life unfolds by chance, that outcomes are dictated by forces beyond his control. He is told that some are lucky while others are not, that fortune is an unpredictable mistress who bestows her gifts at random. But this is the great deception that keeps him bound to the illusion of uncertainty. Nothing in this world happens by accident. Every event, every circumstance, and every so-called coincidence is the result of a deeper law, a law that does not recognize luck, only consciousness. To believe in luck is to believe in disorder, to accept that life is a series of arbitrary happenings rather than a reflection of one's inner state. But nothing is without cause, and the cause is always within. The external world is a mirror, faithfully reflecting the assumptions held in the depths of the mind. Man looks at the winners of great fortunes and says, they are lucky, but he does not see that each one is simply an expression of a state of consciousness that permitted such an experience. There is no power outside of self, no lottery, no draw, no number has ever had the ability to determine fate. It is the assumption, the unshaken conviction of already having that calls forth the fulfillment of desire. Man who trusts in luck places himself at the mercy of an uncontrollable force. He casts his hopes into the wind, never realizing that it is his own breath that directs its course. He waits, wishes, and prays for fortune to smile upon him, unaware that he alone determines what shall be. He does not yet understand that life does not bring to him what he wants, but only what he assumes to be true. The one who wins is not the one who hopes, nor the one who wishes, but the one who has already claimed his prize in the silence of his own mind. Every thought, every feeling, every persistent assumption is a seed planted in the soil of consciousness. And just as nature does not permit a planted seed to return void, so too does the mind bring forth in kind. The belief in luck denies this truth. It implies that the laws governing reality are fickle, unreliable, and beyond one's influence. Yet, when the mind is trained to recognize that every experience is self-created, luck dissolves, and in its place arises the understanding that nothing can be kept from the one who knows that it is already his. There is a power in knowing, a force that moves unseen when a man steps beyond uncertainty, when the outcome is no longer questioned, when the desire is no longer treated as something separate, but rather as something already possessed. The bridge of events will unfold to bring it forth. It is not for man to dictate the way, nor to concern himself with methods or probabilities. The mind, once fixed in the certainty of fulfillment, will set all things in motion. The numbers, the circumstances, the seemingly unrelated events will arrange themselves according to the belief that has taken root within. But if he continues to regard the world as a place ruled by chance, he will remain subject to the very randomness he accepts as truth. To live in the idea of luck is to abdicate one's creative power. It is to surrender the ability to shape experience and instead submit to a world that appears chaotic and indifferent. The mind that waits for luck is a mind that does not yet believe in its own dominion. It hesitates, doubts, and wavers, wondering if fortune will favor it today or if it must wait another time. But time is an illusion, and waiting is the great error that keeps man bound to his current state. To wait is to confess that the desire is not yet real, and as long as it is not real within, it cannot be real without. The difference between the one who manifests and the one who wishes is simple. One knows, the other hopes. The one who knows has no need to question, no need to seek reassurance, no need to rely on probabilities. He does not consult statistics, nor does he search for signs, for he understands that the only sign needed is the conviction already established in the unseen. The outer world has no choice but to conform, but the one who hopes continues to check, to doubt, to wonder if he is lucky enough to receive what he desires. And so, his experience reflects his uncertainty, giving him further reason to believe that life is governed by chance rather than by the precise law of consciousness. To shift from the illusion of luck to the certainty of creation is to take control of life in its entirety. It requires no special technique, no complex method, only the discipline to hold firm to the assumption of already having. It is not a question of whether one is worthy, nor of whether the odds are in one's favor. There are no odds. There is only the law, and the law states that what a man believes in the depths of his being must be made manifest. There is no force that can intervene, no external power that can override this truth. The only requirement is unwavering conviction. Every great fortune, every success, every so-called miracle has followed this same principle. It has never been about luck. The ones who receive are those who have already received within. They have stepped into the feeling of possession long before the world confirmed it to be true. And in doing so, they have set in motion a chain of events that could lead only to one outcome, the inevitable fulfillment of their assumption. To believe in luck is to scatter one's power. To believe in certainty is to reclaim it. The moment a man ceases to place his fate in the hands of chance and instead embraces the knowing that his desire is already his, the world will rearrange itself to reflect that truth. There is no randomness, no uncertainty, no force outside of self. There is only consciousness, and it is the one and only creator of all experience. Faith is the substance of all things seen and unseen, the force that shapes reality with absolute certainty. It is not mere hope, nor is it idle wishing. It is the knowing, the unshakable conviction that what is assumed to be true must be made manifest. The world has conditioned man to believe that external circumstances dictate his fate, that he is at the mercy of forces beyond his control. But nothing exists outside of consciousness, and nothing is created apart from belief. The only determining factor in the realization of a desire is the faith with which it is accepted as already done. To wish for a thing is to acknowledge its absence. To hope for it is to confess doubt. But to have faith is to live in the certainty that it already exists, even when the senses deny it. The mind that possesses faith does not look for proof, does not seek signs, does not wait for evidence. It rests in the unseen reality and knows that the outer world will conform in due time. The law is simple. Whatever is assumed with conviction must externalize itself. There is no other possibility. Man has been taught to rely on probability, to measure his chances by numbers, to look at statistics and believe that they hold power over his destiny. But what is probability but a belief system that governs the minds of those who accept it? The one who believes in probabilities lives in limitation, confined by the idea that some things are more likely than others. But faith does not concern itself with likelihood. It does not ask whether something is possible. It knows that all things already exist in the infinite realm of consciousness and must be brought forth by assumption. The world of facts is nothing more than the crystallization of past assumptions. The mind that looks upon the world and sees separation between itself and its desire has not yet understood its own power. The man who doubts, who wonders when or if his desire will manifest, is confessing that he does not yet believe in its reality. He watches the external world for signs, waiting for proof before he accepts it as real. But this is not faith. Faith does not seek validation. It assumes fulfillment now and leaves the world no choice but to mirror that assumption. The senses will always attempt to contradict faith. The outer world, which is nothing more than a projection of previous states of consciousness, will often present evidence that appears to deny the reality of the assumption. But the one who truly understands faith does not waver, for he knows that what is felt as real within must become real without. He does not permit appearances to dictate his belief, for he understands that appearances are only the reflection of old assumptions, and new assumptions will soon take their place. There is no effort in faith. Struggle belongs to the one who still believes that he must force the world to conform. The moment one understands that the world is a reflection of inner conviction, all struggle ceases. There is no need to manipulate, no need to beg, no need to seek validation from the world of form. The assumption, once fixed in consciousness, is the only creative act required. The world must rearrange itself accordingly. Many attempt to manifest their desires while still carrying the seed of doubt. They practice techniques, repeat affirmations, and visualize. But underneath it all remains the question, will it happen? This question alone is the barrier that keeps them from their desire. To ask if it will happen is to deny that it already has. To believe that effort is required is to confess that one has not yet assumed a feeling of already having. The only task is to move into the state of fulfillment and remain there. When this is done, manifestation is inevitable. Faith is the bridge between the unseen and the seen, between imagination and reality. It does not concern itself with how, for the how is never the concern of the one who knows that the end is already achieved. The mind that fixates on methods, on external conditions, on the mechanics of manifestation, is still operating in doubt. Faith is simply the conviction that what is assumed to be true must be made visible. It does not entertain contradictions, does not seek reassurance, does not waver. It knows, and in knowing, it creates. The one who lacks faith may attempt to rely on willpower to force the world into submission through effort. But willpower is the tool of those who do not yet believe. Faith is effortless. The mind that is truly convinced of a thing does not struggle to bring it forth. It rests, it trusts, and it watches as the world reshapes itself to reflect the assumption. Those who succeed in manifesting great fortunes, in transforming their lives, in achieving what the world calls impossible, do so not through force, but through the quiet certainty of faith. They know that their assumption is already real, and so it becomes. The moment a man steps into the certainty that his desire is already fulfilled, the process is set in motion. The outer world may still reflect the old belief for a time, but it is of no consequence. The seed has been planted, and the harvest is inevitable. There is nothing to do but persist in the assumption, to refuse to accept anything contrary as final. The mind that holds firm in faith will see the evidence unfold in ways beyond comprehension. Circumstances will shift. People will move, and events will unfold to bring about the inevitable fulfillment of what was once only imagined. Faith is the only creative power. It is not influenced by external conditions, not subject to delay, not bound by logic or reason. It is the absolute knowing that what is assumed in consciousness must become reality. The mind that understands this no longer seeks, no longer questions, no longer hopes. It simply assumes, abides in the certainty of fulfillment, and allows the world to catch up. The assumption of already having is the secret to every fulfilled desire. There is no power outside of consciousness, and nothing exists independent of the mind that perceives it. The world of experience is but a shadow cast by the inner state, a reflection of deeply held beliefs and assumptions. To assume is to create, and the one who understands this truth holds the key to transforming any aspect of life. The mind is forever impressing itself upon reality. Every event, every circumstance, and every encounter is drawn from within. The individual who believes himself to be separate from his desires, who sees them as distant or uncertain, is merely experiencing the result of an unrecognized assumption. The difference between the one who wins and the one who does not is not found in chance, nor is it determined by external factors. It is found only in the assumption. The man who assumes he is fortunate will encounter fortune. The one who assumes he is limited will experience limitation. There is no other law at work. The great error lies in believing that circumstances shape belief, rather than understanding that belief shapes circumstances. Many look at the world around them and accept it as fact, allowing their senses to dictate what is possible. They react to appearances, reinforcing the reality they wish to change. But all that is seen is simply the outpicturing of past assumptions. If one desires a new experience, he must first assume a new state of being. To assume the feeling of already having is not to pretend or to deceive oneself. It is to recognize that the unseen is just as real as that which is seen. It is to know that what is held in consciousness must externalize itself in due time. There is no need to seek confirmation, no need to wonder how it will unfold. The assumption, once deeply felt, sets the process in motion, and the external world has no choice but to conform. There is a vast difference between wanting and assuming. To want something is to acknowledge its absence, and in doing so, to reinforce the state of lack. The desire that remains unfulfilled is evidence of a mind that has not yet assumed its fulfillment. The assumption of already having does not seek reassurance. It is content, for it knows that the work is already done. The world may still reflect the old state for a time, but it is of no consequence. A seed does not sprout the moment it is planted, yet the one who plants it does not doubt its growth. He knows that in due time it must emerge. Every feeling, every persistent thought is an assumption. Whether one is aware of it or not, assumptions are constantly being formed, and the world is constantly arranging itself to reflect them. The disciplined mind chooses its assumptions deliberately, recognizing that what is imagined with conviction must become fact. The undisciplined mind wavers, moving between belief and doubt, and in doing so creates a reality of uncertainty and contradiction. To assume a state is to make it real within. The one who assumes wealth does not look at his empty hands in despair, for he does not see them as empty. He sees them filled with abundance, and because he sees it within, it must become visible without. The one who assumes success does not concern himself with failures, for he does not recognize them as failures. He knows only the fulfillment of his desire, and so success becomes inevitable. It is not necessary to wait for evidence before assuming a thing to be true. The assumption itself is the cause, and the world must follow. The senses may argue, appearances may contradict, but they hold no power over the one who remains steadfast in his belief. He does not seek proof, for he knows that proof is the effect, not the cause. To live in the end is to feel as though the desire is already accomplished, to rest in the certainty that it is done. The moment this state becomes natural, the work is finished, and the outer world will reflect it. There is no greater error than believing that effort is required to manifest a desire. Effort implies struggle, and struggle is born of doubt. The mind that truly assumes does not force, does not push, does not strain. It rests, knowing that assumption is the only action necessary. Those who rely on willpower or external effort have not yet accepted the reality of their assumption, and so they continue to labor in vain. The one who knows simply assumes and allows. Many attempt to apply this principle, yet falter when they see no immediate change. They allow the outer world to dictate their belief, forgetting that the outer world is merely the past solidified. If they would persist, if they would refuse to entertain any thought contrary to their assumption, they would soon see the evidence appear. The disciplined mind does not waver. It does not react to delay, for it knows that delay is merely the time needed for reality to rearrange itself. The moment doubt enters, the process is interrupted. But the moment one assumes with finality, the outcome is inevitable. Every individual is already living by assumption, whether consciously or unconsciously. The one who assumes struggle will find struggle. The one who assumes ease will find ease. It is not a matter of whether the law works, but whether it is used deliberately. The power lies not in effort, nor in chance, but in assumption alone. The world is nothing more than the outpicturing of what has already been assumed. When this truth is fully grasped, there is no longer any question of whether a desire will manifest. There is only the certainty that what is assumed with conviction must be experienced. The external world is nothing more than a reflection of the internal state. Every circumstance, every event, and every so-called coincidence is drawn from within. There is no separation between the inner world of thought and the outer world of experience, for they are one and the same. The untrained mind believes itself to be a passive observer of reality, subject to forces beyond its control. But the awakened mind understands that everything seen, touched, and experienced is the result of what has been accepted as true within. There is no power outside of consciousness. The only question is whether one is creating deliberately or unconsciously. Man moves through life believing that his experiences shape his thoughts, that the world outside determines what he believes about himself and his circumstances. But this is the great illusion. The truth is the reverse. It is thought that shapes experience. The one who believes himself to be fortunate will encounter fortune. The one who assumes himself to be limited will see limitation reflected at every turn. It is not the world that determines man's belief. It is belief that determines the world. What is impressed upon the subconscious mind must be expressed in external form. There is no exception to this law. Everything that is seen in the world of form is merely an effect. The cause is always within. The individual who accepts limitation in his inner world will find that limitation solidified in the outer. The one who assumes wealth, health, success, or happiness within himself will experience these things as external realities. There is no randomness in this process. The world is a mirror, faithfully reflecting that which is held as true in the depths of consciousness. If an individual wishes to change his experience, he must first change his assumptions. To assume the feeling of already having is the only creative act necessary. It is not action that brings a desire into form, nor is it effort, nor is it struggle. The assumption alone is enough. The mind that truly accepts a state as real will see that state externalized, for the world must always reflect that which is felt as true. The one who understands this does not concern himself with methods, nor does he look for signs or confirmation. He simply assumes, knowing that assumption is creation. There is no greater hindrance to the fulfillment of desire than doubt. The mind that questions whether or not a thing is possible has already accepted that it is not. The moment one allows himself to entertain thoughts of failure, he has impressed failure upon the subconscious. It is impossible to assume lack and experience abundance. Just as it is impossible to assume limitation and experience freedom, the outer world has no choice but to reflect what has been assumed within. The one who assumes success will find the means to achieve it. The one who assumes struggle will find endless obstacles. The world does not create, it only reveals what has already been accepted as fact within. Every individual is already living by assumption, whether he realizes it or not. Every belief, every deeply held conviction is an assumption that is being externalized in the world of form. There is no moment in which man is not creating, for every thought, every reaction, every expectation is an act of assumption. The question is not whether this law is at work, but whether it is being used consciously or unconsciously. The one who understands this principle takes control of his assumptions, deliberately choosing only those that serve him. The one who remains unaware of this law allows the external world to dictate his beliefs, and in doing so he remains trapped in the cycle of his own past assumptions. The assumption of already having is not an idle daydream. It is not the mere repetition of words, nor is it the mechanical practice of affirmations. It is the deep inner conviction that the desired state is already real. The individual who assumes with certainty does not look to the world for confirmation. He does not wonder when or how his desire will manifest. He knows that the moment he assumed, the process was set in motion, and the world has no choice but to bring it forth. The outer world is powerless to resist a firmly held assumption. The greatest mistake is to wait for proof before accepting a thing as real. The senses deceive, for they can only reveal what has already been assumed in the past. The individual who waits for the world to change before he assumes a new state will wait forever, for the world can only mirror that which has already been accepted within. The one who understands this law knows that assumption comes first and reality follows. He assumes what he desires, remains faithful to that assumption, and allows the world to rearrange itself accordingly. The disciplined mind does not waver. It does not move between faith and doubt, between belief and disbelief. It assumes with finality and refuses to entertain any thought that contradicts its chosen state. The moment an assumption is truly accepted, it begins to harden into fact. The means by which it will unfold are irrelevant, for assumption is the only cause. The one who remains loyal to his assumption will find that circumstances, people, and events shift to bring it into being. It may appear as though the world has changed, but in truth it is only the individual's assumption that has changed, and the world has followed. There is no effort in this process. The individual who assumes his desire to be real does not struggle to make it so. He does not force, nor does he attempt to manipulate the external world. He simply rests in the certainty that his assumption is already a fact. The moment struggle begins, it is a sign that doubt has entered. But the one who truly assumes does not struggle, for he knows that the outer world must conform. To assume a state is to live in its fulfillment. It is to feel within as though the desire has already been realized. The mind that dwells in the end, that moves through life with the conviction that what is desired is already his, will see that assumption materialized. The law is absolute. The world can only reflect what is held as true within. The individual who assumes wisely, who remains faithful to the unseen reality, will watch as the world shapes itself in perfect accord with his belief. The mind is the only reality, and within it lies the power to shape and mold the world according to one's deepest convictions. Nothing exists outside of consciousness, and nothing occurs in life that has not first been imagined and accepted as true within. The outer world is but the shadow of the inner state, a projection of deeply held beliefs, assumptions, and mental patterns. To understand this truth is to grasp the foundation of all creation. The only determining factor in the fulfillment of any desire is the assumption that it is already done. There is no element of chance in this process. The world is not a chaotic and unpredictable force. nor is it governed by luck or arbitrary circumstances. Every event, every encounter, and every so-called coincidence is the outpicturing of the assumptions that have been impressed upon the subconscious mind. The law is simple and unerring. What is believed with feeling must be experienced in the external world. Whether one is conscious of this process or not, it is always in operation. The individual who understands this truth takes full responsibility for his world, knowing that nothing happens to him but what has first been accepted within him. The idea of luck is a false concept born from ignorance of this law. To believe in luck is to surrender power, to assume that external forces dictate outcomes independent of one's inner world. But the law does not work by chance. It is precise, exact, and always active. The one who believes himself to be lucky is not experiencing random fortune. He is simply living out the assumption of his own good fortune, whether or not he is conscious of having made it. The one who believes himself to be unlucky is bound to that state, for he has accepted it as true. There is no external force assigning one man to be fortunate and another to suffer misfortune. Each is experiencing only the reflection of his own assumptions. The mind that assumes wealth does not dwell upon lack. The mind that assumes success does not entertain failure. It is impossible to persistently hold an inner conviction and not see it externalized in the world of form. The individual who understands this does not look to circumstances, statistics, or probabilities to determine what is possible. He knows that the only thing required for the fulfillment of any desire is the certainty that it is already so. He does not ask whether or not his desire will come to pass, for such a question only reveals doubt. Instead, he assumes its fulfillment and allows the world to catch up to that assumption. The process of manifestation is not dependent on external effort or struggle. The one who labors to bring his desires into reality has not yet grasped the power of assumption. To assume a state is to dwell in the feeling of its reality, to persist in the conviction that what is imagined is as real as what is seen. It is not a matter of trying to force the world to conform, nor is it about taking desperate action to make things happen. The world must rearrange itself to reflect the assumption held within, for the world has no choice but to mirror that which is felt as true. To seek evidence before believing is to misunderstand the nature of creation. The senses can only reflect what has already been assumed. They cannot dictate what is possible. The individual who waits for proof before assuming a thing to be real will wait indefinitely, for the outer world can only reveal past assumptions. The one who understands this law knows that assumption precedes reality. He does not seek validation from the world of form, for he knows that form is but a shadow of the unseen state that exists within. The only question to ask is not whether a thing will happen, but whether it has been fully accepted as true in consciousness. Doubt is the only barrier to fulfillment. The mind that wavers between belief and disbelief, between faith and fear, is divided against itself, and a divided mind cannot produce results. The one who truly assumes does not question, does not seek reassurance, does not look for signs. He lives as though his desire were already a reality, and because he does, it becomes so. The disciplined mind holds to its assumption unwaveringly, ignoring appearances, refusing to entertain anything that contradicts its chosen state. The moment doubt enters, the process is delayed. The moment assumption is final, the outcome is certain. There is no struggle in this process. The one who assumes his desire is already fulfilled does not fight to make it so. He does not beg, plead, or attempt to manipulate circumstances. He knows that the work is already done, that the assumption itself is the creative act. The external world is powerless to resist the firmly held assumption. Events, circumstances, and even people must align to bring forth the state that has been accepted within. This is not a matter of chance or luck. It is the outworking of a universal and unchangeable law. To assume wisely is to take control of one's world. Every assumption, whether conscious or unconscious, is creating reality. The individual who moves through life without awareness of this law is subject to the shifting winds of unconscious belief. He experiences only what he has unknowingly assumed, that believing himself to be a victim of fate or chance. But the one who understands that assumption is the only cause takes control of his mind, deliberately choosing thoughts and beliefs that serve him. He does not allow the world to dictate what he believes. He dictates to the world what he chooses to experience. There is no mystery in manifestation. There is no external force determining outcomes, apart from the assumptions held within. The world is a mirror, reflecting only what has been accepted as true. The individual who assumes wisely, who remains faithful to the unseen reality of his fulfilled desire, will see it externalized in due time. The law cannot fail. The only question is whether it is being used deliberately or unconsciously. The moment assumption is accepted as fact, the process is complete, and the outer world must conform. Consciousness is the only reality, the one and only cause of all phenomena. The external world, with all its events and circumstances, is but a reflection of what is assumed within. To change one's life, one must first change the assumptions held in mind, for nothing exists outside of consciousness. The belief that external factors such as statistics, probability, or so-called luck determine outcomes is a misunderstanding of the creative process. Everything seen in the world of experience is simply an outpicturing of the unseen world of thought and belief. There is no randomness in the unfolding of events. Every experience is the result of an assumption made, whether consciously or unconsciously, by the individual. The mistaken belief that life is subject to chance is what keeps many in a state of uncertainty and limitation. But the world does not act upon man arbitrarily. It simply mirrors his internal state. The one who believes in luck, in random fortune or misfortune, has abdicated his power and surrendered his creative authority. The one who understands the law of assumption knows that nothing comes to pass unless it is first accepted as true within. There is no power outside of consciousness. No external force determines success or failure. No unseen hand bestows rewards or withholds blessings. The individual alone determines what he shall experience by the assumptions he holds. The one who assumes himself to be fortunate will move through life encountering events that reflect that assumption. The one who assumes difficulty and struggle will find those very conditions materializing. The mind is the only creative medium, and it does not judge or question what is impressed upon it. It simply externalizes whatever is assumed as true. To assume is to create. This is the fundamental principle upon which all manifestation rests. The difference between those who succeed and those who do not is not found in circumstances, opportunities, or talent. It is found in the assumptions they make about themselves and their world. The one who assumes success cannot fail, for he does not entertain the thought of failure. The one who assumes abundance cannot experience lack, for he has already accepted wealth as his natural state. The law is absolute, and it does not waver. The external world can only reflect what has been assumed within. Every individual is already using this law, whether he realizes it or not. His present life is the direct result of past assumptions, whether they were made deliberately or unconsciously. The undisciplined mind assumes at random, reacting to appearances and reinforcing the very conditions it seeks to escape. The disciplined mind assumes with purpose, choosing only those beliefs that align with its desired experience. It does not allow the outer world to dictate its inner state, for it knows that the outer world is nothing more than a projection of what has already been accepted within. The idea that probabilities or odds govern outcomes is an illusion. Probability is nothing more than the accumulated assumptions of the collective mind, but it has no power over the individual who understands the law. The one who assumes his desired outcome as certain does not concern himself with what is considered likely or unlikely. He knows that the assumption itself determines the result. It is not a matter of defying statistics or overcoming improbability. It is a matter of recognizing that probability itself is a construct of belief, and belief can be altered at will. To assume is not to wish, nor is it to hope. Wishing and hoping imply lack. They are the confessions of a mind that does not yet believe. Assumption, on the other hand, is the quiet certainty that what is imagined is already fact. The one who assumes does not look to the external world for confirmation, for he knows that confirmation must follow assumption, not precede it. The senses may argue otherwise, appearances may contradict, but these are nothing more than the echoes of past assumptions. The disciplined mind does not react to appearances. It holds unwaveringly to its chosen assumption, knowing that the outer world must conform in due time. Doubt is the only barrier to fulfillment. The mind that wavers, that moves between faith and disbelief, delays the manifestation of its desire. The moment an assumption is questioned, it loses its creative power. But the moment an assumption is accepted as final, the work is done. The outer world must respond in kind, for it has no choice but to reflect the internal state. The one who understands this law remains steadfast in his assumption, refusing to entertain any thought that contradicts it. The process is effortless. Struggle, force, and effort are signs that the assumption has not yet been fully accepted. The individual who assumes his wish fulfilled does not labor to bring it to pass, for he knows that the assumption itself is the cause and the effect must follow. He does not seek to manipulate circumstances or force events to unfold in his favor. He simply assumes, rests in the certainty that it is done, and allows the world to rearrange itself accordingly. The outer world is powerless to resist a firmly held assumption. To assume wisely is to take control of one's destiny. Every assumption, whether made consciously or unconsciously, is creating reality. The one who moves through life without awareness of this law remains at the mercy of unconscious belief, experiencing only what has been impressed upon his mind without deliberate intent. But the one who understands that assumption is the only cause takes control, choosing his beliefs with precision and purpose. He does not allow the external world to dictate his assumptions. He dictates to the world what he chooses to experience. The world is not outside of man, it is within him. His assumptions shape his reality, and nothing occurs that has not first been imagined and accepted as true. To assume a thing is to give it life, to set it in motion, to call it forth from the unseen into the seen. The one who assumes with conviction does not hope, does not wish, does not seek evidence. He knows that what he has assumed is already fact, and he moves through life with a quiet assurance that the world must conform. There is no chance, no luck, no external force at play. There is only the assumption, and the world reshaping itself in its image. Everything that exists in the external world is but a reflection of the assumptions held within. There is no power outside of consciousness, no force governing life, apart from the beliefs and convictions one accepts as true. The mistaken notion that events unfold by chance, that luck plays a role in determining outcomes, is a misunderstanding of the fundamental creative law. The only cause of experience is the assumption made in the unseen realm of the mind. What is imagined and accepted as real must externalize itself, for the world is nothing more than a mirror reflecting back what has been impressed upon consciousness. The disciplined mind understands that assumption precedes reality. It does not look to the external world for proof, nor does it waver between belief and doubt. It assumes the end, dwells in the feeling of its fulfillment, and allows the world to rearrange itself accordingly. It does not concern itself with statistics, probabilities, or seemingly insurmountable odds, for it knows that such things are only the shadows of past beliefs. The only thing that matters is the certainty with which an assumption is held. To assume is to create, and what is firmly assumed must be made manifest. There is no randomness in this process. Every experience, whether of success or failure, wealth or poverty, health or illness, is the outpicturing of an inner assumption. The one who understands this truth does not seek to manipulate circumstances, nor does he struggle to force events into alignment with his desires. He simply assumes, knowing that assumption itself is the cause, and that the world must respond in kind. The outer world cannot resist a firmly held conviction. It must, by law, conform to the state accepted within. The individual who moves through life unaware of this law is subject to the unconscious assumptions he has made, believing himself to be at the mercy of fate, luck, or external conditions. But the one who awakens to the truth takes full responsibility for his world, knowing that nothing happens to him but what has first been imagined and accepted within. He assumes deliberately, choosing only those beliefs that serve him, and in doing so he takes control of his destiny. There is no force outside of assumption. The world does not create, it only reflects. The one who assumes wisely, who remains steadfast in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, will watch as the world reshapes itself to mirror his conviction. This is not a matter of effort or struggle, nor is it a matter of hoping or wishing. It is a matter of knowing that assumption is the only reality, that what is imagined with feeling must be made visible. The moment an assumption is accepted as fact, the process is complete, and the external world must follow. The only question is whether this law is being used consciously or unconsciously. Every individual is already shaping his world by his assumptions. The only difference between those who experience fulfillment and those who do not is awareness. The one who assumes deliberately, who chooses his beliefs with purpose and faith, will experience the life he desires. The one who remains unaware will continue to experience the echoes of past assumptions, believing himself to be a victim of chance. The law is absolute. The world will always reflect what is assumed within. To assume is to create. To persist in assumption is to call forth the unseen into the seen. To rest in the conviction that what is imagined is already real is the secret of all manifestation. The disciplined mind knows this, applies it, and watches as reality bends in perfect harmony with the state accepted within. There is no mystery, no external force at work. Only the law of assumption, creating in accordance with the thoughts and beliefs held in consciousness.